everybody. It's David Neagle. Welcome to another episode of the Successful Mind Podcast. And today we're talking about your personal power, the things that drain you of your power, and why your power is so very important to you in business and in life. With a kind of a specific focus on sales a little bit today. This question has come up with clients in the last few weeks. Also probably because there's been a lot of issues out in the world, things going on, a lot of distractions, that type of thing. But I've been getting a very specific question, and the question is more about how do we deal with problems that show up within a sales conversation, like I don't have the money or I don't have the time, some kind of an objection, and then various other objections that people would send me specifically based on whatever business they had or whatever industry that they'd actually be in. So I kind of want to address that specifically today. And here's the idea behind it is this. I have always taught sales with a unique perspective. And the perspective is that when I began to learn sales myself, I spent a tremendous amount of time, several years, just kind of trying to decode the mystery around sales. You know, the idea that every business needs to have it, every salesperson wants to do it. It is probably the number one skill set a person can learn to be in charge of their own income, and for it to be completely unlimited. If a person masters sales, they really master money in their own life because they're mastering the skill set that brings money in. It's not the skill set that manages it in your life, but it's the most important skill set because it always allows you to bring the money in, and you're never kind of sitting around going, well, I wonder where the money's going to come from. You absolutely know how to bring the money in your life. And that when you do that, when you master that, you become extremely empowered in the world that we live in today. Because the truth is, most people have no idea how to bring money in. Where most people are taught is they have to go get a job, and that's how money comes to them. So they have a relationship with it, but it's kind of a disconnected relationship. And the people that they work for are more in charge of their income than they are actually in charge of their income. Even with the idea that people today have been able to up their skill sets exponentially. And people that have a job, they can kind of call their own shots to some degree. If they're in they're in an industry that really needs what they do, and they've worked hard to make themselves the best. So they're a little bit more on that edge of that they can control their income, but it's still based on the options that are out there in the world, where if you really understand sales and you become a master salesperson, it's something that will always be needed in any or every industry, no matter what changes in the world. You've mastered the art of bringing resources into your life, whether it's money or anything else. But the problem starts, where the problem starts with most people, is that there is a disconnect between themselves and how they have learned about money in their life. And that disconnect is that money is out there somewhere, right? It's out there in the world, in the universe, and I got to figure out a way to go get it. And it's interesting because this is one of the most important things that a person has to learn in their life to be self-sustaining. And yet it's not taught in school. There's no schools that teach this, right? We don't learn it in grade school. We don't learn it in high school. We don't learn it in college. We learn management, we learn leadership, to some degree in those areas, but we don't learn the nuts and bolts of how do we actually bring money in. And I have found the reason for that is because most people don't know. And the people that do know are usually very busy doing it in their life. And they've also realized this, that trying to explain this to people that don't know and that are scared to death around money, you also run into a brick wall with those folks because they don't want to know. They don't want to let go of their belief about how the world works to accept something that would empower them more. Now, what would be behind that? Well, the feeling of control, the feeling of certainty. And believe it or not, even with the limited amount of money that the average person has to bring into their life, they know that. And they've replicated it over and over again, even if it doesn't work all the time, even if it makes them feel vulnerable, even if they know that that rug could be pulled out from underneath of them at any time in their career. And we have nothing but history of that being true. Like, that's 100% factually accurate. Nobody ever knows when that rug's going to get pulled out if you have a job with somebody else. People build a certainty inside of themselves, a bit of control, if you will, so that they can go through their life and kind of feel good and solid about something. But it's always hanging underneath the edge there as far as that truth. And it's so important to understand that if you look, I don't know what country you're listening to me in, but we all know that there's countries out there in the world where the opportunity to do this, to make sales, isn't for everyone. That, like, certain governments and countries don't provide that opportunity for people. We know that there's crazy numbers, like 25,000 people a week starve to death on this planet. Like, why would that be in a world that we're so abundant with what it is that we can do, and that those people can't even help themselves because there's an ignorance there that, number one, they're probably in a situation where there's not much they can do about it, and they don't know how to even change that at a fundamental level. So it's a serious thing when we talk about this. And it's also one of the reasons why it's so resistant from people. But now let's go back to the idea that money is something that we have to go out in the world in order to get, okay? I've been teaching sales for 25 years, and I've taught people how to make hundreds of millions of dollars in income through learning and understanding and mastering sales. And unequivocally, every person that's ever come to me has always come from the position, the psychological position, that they have to go out there and get sales, and they have to go out there and make money. And when they do that, it puts them in a very disempowered position in their own mindset, period. Like, if I think I have to go out and get something from the world, then my whole focus is, how do I get it, right? This is why most sales books and trainings really focus on manipulating the client. Some outright say that what they're doing is manipulating the client. Some don't say it, but if you look at it, you can't help but know that that's exactly what's taking place. One of the things that became very important to me when I got into business for myself was the fact that I had started to succeed outside of the box of what people are traditionally taught to succeed. And things started coming my way in a way where it wasn't just me that was doing better, but also the people that I was interacting with in a very great way. And at the time, I was learning everything that I could. I was reading every book I could get my hands on, going to all kinds of seminars, and I was getting a lot of different messages. And a big message that I was getting in marketing and advertising and sales was kind of how to pull it over somebody's eyes, so that they buy, right? How to trick them into the sale. And I thought to myself, for me as an individual, maybe not for you, maybe not for everybody, but definitely for me, there was a fundamental problem with this in the universe, and that it violates the law of more life for everyone. So the question in my mind was, does it have to be this way? Is this the place where the idea of capitalism and business holistically benefiting people actually breaks down to one road, and the road is manipulation, and you got to figure out how to get something out of somebody that truly doesn't want to actually give it, but you trick them into doing it. And the more I studied and the more I worked with my own sales, I found out that was not true, but it's true when the front end idea of what you're doing is getting. When that changes, when you change the front end idea in business from getting to giving, right? In other words, I have a business that has a product or a service, and my product or service helps other people better their life in one way or another. My understanding is that I can't have that product or service without people that actually need it and want it being out there in the world. Well, my job as a business owner is to find those people. It's not to convince people that don't need my product or service to buy something that they don't need, or to convince people that are really not in their own power about spending the money with me why they should spend the money with me. My job is to help influence a person into one of two lanes of thought in their mind. Either I'm 100% in my yes, or I'm 100% in my no. Now, when you're coming from the idea of getting, that's not the direction that a person is heading down in the conversation. In the conversation, they're looking for, how can I exploit different areas of this person's situation so that they feel overly pressured to do something that they may not want to do, even if it's for their benefit, even if it's for their benefit. And the answer is that you don't have to do that, but it's probably not your experience, because that's the way that we experience all kinds of things in life. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's trying to push their agenda onto us, even if it's good for us, but we don't want it, right? That's not the world anybody wants to live in. We want to live in a world where we make our own choices for ourselves, by ourselves, and to live our life the way that we want. But when you're raised in an environment where that's not what you experience, and then you decide you want to become a business person, the idea is then, well, I got to go out and figure out how to get something. I'm not thinking about giving. But the law states, the universal law, the scriptural law, the scientific law states, in order to receive, you have to give. You have to give in order to receive. Well, what are we giving in sales? What we're giving is the idea, the opportunity of a product or service that betters somebody's life, and then helping them work through the mental gymnastics as to whether they can get clear about wanting to say yes or wanting to say no. I teach a program called The Matrix. It's a sales program. It's a 20-week program that teaches people exactly how to do this. And the fundamental behind it is that when you're going through the process of finding your ideal client, your marketing, your advertising, you're doing whatever it is so that people are coming into your funnel so that you can then have the potential to sell to them. When you actually get down to the person, really in the conversation, you're coming from a place of you're in power. You're 100% in your power. You don't need to get anything from this person. You're there to basically see if you can help, right? Now, where does this fall apart? Because most everything falls apart in one way or another if you're looking at it incorrectly. I'll tell you where this falls apart. It falls apart if the main mode idea for your business is competition. If you're more concerned with competing against the next person in business in your industry versus actually being a human benefit to people in life, it will fall apart right here at this part of the conversation, because your main goal is to do better than somebody else so that you can be at the top. And that's where people start twisting the truth in order to be able to get what they want, to break sales records without doing it in a way where you're coming from a place of power, but how can I get the most of what it is, that I'm looking for. An example of that, if you've ever seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, that's a perfect example of people that were hungry, people that had the ability and the ambition to build great skill sets, and yet they manipulated people when it wasn't necessary. If they'd have taken those skills, that ambition, that desire, and put it into something that benefited people, it would not be the terrible, tragic story that it is today. But the fact that people look at that movie as a point of inspiration of how to go do things in sales, and a lot of people do, a lot of businesses do, it's like playbook for a lot of people. This is where it causes them great stress. Like, there's nothing better to make a sale that a person's 100% happy in, and they pay you because they want to pay you, because they see the value in what they're getting. They see the value in working with you and developing that relationship, and everybody wins in that scenario. Where's the problem? Well, the problem ends up being on the front end because people don't want to do the work to find the right people that are out there to buy from them. They take whatever they can get and they try to transform that into something that it may or may not need to be. In order for a sales conversation to go smooth where you're not convincing somebody, you must be in your power. The only reason we would try to convince somebody of something is because we're not in our power and we feel like we have to get something that is elusive to us, and that's money. And money is not elusive. Money is everywhere. I've said this on other podcasts before. I want to say this again. Every dollar, or whatever form of money you use, is currently in the hands of somebody else. Every dollar that you will earn in your life is in the hands of somebody else. Everything in life to benefit humanity is supposed to circulate, okay? If the circulation stops, stagnation takes over. And once stagnation takes over, everything begins to break down. But there's a lot of reasons circulation can stop. And it can stop because we don't actually understand how do we keep it moving. Do you know that it is an absolutely amazing experience to be the person that has money to actually pay for something that you want to pay for? That's like a spiritual experience inside of someone. I feel I'm worthy of taking this money and paying for it. So where are some areas that you might be a little disempowered that you're not aware of? Well, check these areas out in your life and ask yourself, do you begrudge buying things if they're not on sale? Are you constantly looking for coupons and discounts and bargaining? If you are, you can afford to not do that. Because every time you don't pay full price for something, and I know some people are going, this guy's absolutely ridiculous. Who the hell pays full price, right? But every time you don't pay full price, you take money out of the mouths of the people that you're spending money with. They have to get less, right? And if they have to get less, then they have to trim everything down in their business, and eventually it begins to fall apart if we continue to go down that road. When you pay your bills, do you sit down and pay your bills and think to yourself, I'm so unbelievably grateful for all of my bills because it's bringing me the things and the ease that I want in my life? Or do you begrudge it and you complain and you moan and you're constantly juggling bills around? That is disempowering, right? Money is abundant. There should be no reason that you have to do that. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, I lived the first early part of my life doing that like you would not believe, before I understood that there was an abundance. And one day I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. If there's an abundance, there's no reason why I should pay a bill late again, unless it's by accident or something, but there's no reason I should ever pay a bill late again. If I pay a bill late again, what I'm really saying is I'm being too lazy to go out and do what's necessary to keep that abundance flowing in my life. That might be hard for some of you to hear, but maybe it's exactly what you need to hear so that you can move from struggling every day and struggling in your business and start moving in the direction of the wealth and the abundance that's actually out there. If you want more help on this, take a look at our company, right? Check out the Art of Success seminar, contact our company, see what programs that we have can help you. Because everybody that I work with, that I show them how to do this, they rocket ship their sales. Take your annual income, turn it into a monthly income. How would you like to do that and do it within the next month or two? We can show you how to do that. Really start to think. We're not meant to struggle. We were born to be a success, and success itself is actually easy because the only place it's hard is in our head. When we get our head right, we get everything else right. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you on the next episode.